It's Thursday, Necro Thursday, and I'm here with Jeff. How's it going, Jeff?
Good, man. How you doing?
And this is the Necromaniacs horror podcast coming at you every week. We're working to maintain that schedule because I'm going to be gone for a couple weeks, and we're trying to bank up these episodes so that there's no interruption in our relentless schedule to provide top-notch content for everybody.
Indeed.
And I steal that top-notch classification from Jackie Smith over at Into the Necrosphere.
Yes.
Yeah. How you doing, Jeff? Everything okay?
Yeah, everything's going all right. Can't really complain. Been busy with work and stuff, so I haven't really watched much since I last talked to you. But I did go see the band Tool on Wednesday. Have you heard of this band Tool?
Yeah, I think I have their demo.
Yeah.
The demo that came out on Revelation. Yeah, I think I have.
Yeah. Yeah, our friend Cliff is with him.
Yeah. He's been with
Working.
them for a while now, like working with them.
Yeah, a couple years, 2-3 years.
Yeah.
So I went to see him and we hung out and I stuck around for the show, obviously. I gotta say, man, Tool's a good live band.
I haven't seen Tool perform live in quite a while, and I'd like to see them again because I always thought they were a great band live, and their records are good too. I actually I'm a fan. I like their music.
Yeah, I like them too. I'm not one of the uber obsessed or anything like that, but I do appreciate what they do, and watching them do it live is interesting, man. They're fucking super tight, like just together, and the whole visual component adds a lot to it. I will say I've never seen as many T-shirts of the band that's playing than when I went to see Tool. Like I would say 90% of the people were wearing their T-shirts to the show. Wearing the T-shirt of the band you're going to see.
I never do that. Yeah, I make a rule not to do that.
Yeah, that should be against the law, really. I don't stop it, people. Do not wear the shirt of the band you're going to see. But yeah, it was fun. It was good to catch up with Cliff and a few other people. Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, the first time I saw Tool was opening for the Rollins band, like way back on like one of the End of Silence tours.
That's insane. They opened for Rollins band.
Yep, they were opening for the Rollins band, and then a few years later, they were like gigantic, and they had a pretty fast ascent once Undertow came out. I feel like they did Lollapalooza, and then they were out on their own headlining tours, and then it was off to the races with those guys.
Yeah, good for them. Yeah, I wasn't Rollins is on Undertow. I think he does a song with them on their record.
Yeah, there's a section where he does like a spoken word passage.
Yeah, they played a couple songs from that record, I believe. I'm not really that familiar with that album.
It's a good one, man. And the one before that EP that came out was really good.
Yeah, good fucking band, man.
And of course, their demo was the best.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the demo came out in Revelation. Yeah, it was cool shit. Like I was thinking though on the drive home, stadiums are not made for live music.
Hell no.
Like
I agree with you completely.
I watched the opening band, Elder, who I knew the name, but I wasn't familiar with their music, and I liked them. They were cool. But I was like, man, this just sounds like I can't. It just sounded like the sound was just going everywhere except my ears. I was like, it'll probably get better when Tool plays, and it got a little bit better, but it was still like the same thing. And I was like, man, unless you're like front of the house or like first few rows, it just doesn't sound good in an arena.
Yeah, the only place that I think, and people will probably debate me on this, but Madison Square Garden has good live sound because I saw The Cure play there a few years ago, and they sounded amazing.
Oh wow!
I've seen shows. I saw last year. Tina and I went to go see Misfits at the Prudential Center in Newark.
Yeah,
and that had like the worst sound I've ever heard, and so bad that the dialogue, like the talk, but the banter between songs was completely unintelligible.
Oh my God. Wow.
Yeah, I couldn't even understand a word Glenn Danzig was saying, like after like between songs. And yeah, we're going to go see Maiden later this year. Iron Maiden's playing there. At least I think
Oh,
there's at
okay.
least two shows, so we're going to go check that out. Just to, I always like going to see Iron Maiden.
Oh yeah. Wow. Yeah. I'll have to talk. I think about one of my other friends went and saw the Misfits. I'll have to ask him how it sounded. Like Tool's an intricate band. You need to hear those little like things that they're doing, and that stuff was kind of getting lost. And I was on the side of the stage with a guitar player, and I felt like his guitar was harder to hear than anything else. Like a lot of low end in the drums, and just anything like higher just seemed to just disappear completely. But the crowd didn't mind. The crowd was into it. It looked like everyone was having a good time. So what the fuck do I know?
At the front of house, like were you like experiencing the front of house mix, or were you side stage?
I was side stage, yeah, and I had just been talking to people about this, and like, yeah, unless you're like front of house, like any arena's gonna sound like shit.
But yeah, man, I haven't, I've been trying to keep up on movies because we're trying to, compress our schedule. I've been watching stuff for the show, but I haven't really been watching much else. Like I just been trying to like between the thing that Carl and I are doing, the Darkness Weaves show, sub series, and keeping up on this, I haven't really had much opportunity to read other things besides Carl Edward Wagner stories and watch movies for because we're just trying to keep up with the schedule for the few weeks that I'm gone. It's been like a bit of a grind to kind of keep
Yeah.
everything rolling. But I am looking forward to the Larry David return of Larry David and Curb Your Enthusiasm, which uh,
Yes.
starts this week. Um, with only 3 episodes left in True Detective, I gotta say, man, I think that I'm gonna have to, and this is just a projection, give the series a thumbs down. I don't know.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh man, I still haven't. I think at this point I'm gonna watch it all like in a couple sittings because I still haven't started it, but I do plan on watching it. And again, like very very mixed reaction to this season. And
Apparently Nick Pizzolatto and Issa Lopez got a bit of an online dust up over the season 4.
really, oh, I haven't heard about that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he's an executive producer, but does not have a hand in any of the writing. So, you know,
Yeah, that executive producer credit is basically like, look, we're gonna do your show without you, but you'll
yeah.
still get paid, basically. Um, yeah, and that's sort of like my main problem is like it's basically fan fiction. Like you don't have the creator. It's like it's his thing, and you're doing it without him. For good or for better or for worse, I mean that's his show.
Yeah, exactly. And I touched on this earlier on a different episode of this, or I forgot where I talked about it briefly, but like to me, True Detective season 1 is like such almost like a literary like experience because of all the connections with like Lovecraft and Thomas Ligotti and Carla
Mm,
Wagner and like all that sort of stuff. That it almost seems like when if someone else took over the reins, it would be like those Lynn Carter, L. Sprague de Camp uh pastiche additions to
mm,
the Conan like mythos, you know what I mean? Where
right.
there was like the Robert E. Howard stories, and then these other guys like years later picked up the mantle and tried to write their own stories in the same universe. And
Yeah.
to varying degrees of success, like not all of it was bad. Like Carl Edward Wagner actually wrote a Conan story novel that was pretty good. But you got to be careful, man. And this leads into another thing that I'm really looking forward to is Long Legs, that film Long Legs that
Yeah.
is supposed to come out this summer. And just it's it touches on that because based on the trailer, I was like, man, someone should have sent this trailer to Issa Lopez before she wrote the True Detective story because the vibe and the whole, from what I can tell, it might be the atmosphere that I was looking for in True Detective season 4 might come out in
Right.
this Long Legs movie.
Oh, no, fuck. Yeah, I definitely do want to see that. That's a shame to hear. Like really, a couple other friends I talked to like are kind of lukewarm about it. A couple others are like, "Oh, it's the best season since season one," and they're like, "There's all these callbacks to the first season," and right there, I'm like, like when you do like fan service like that, it almost feels like desperation. Like, hey, remember that thing you used to like? Like, it's here now. Yeah, I don't love that.
Yeah, just three episodes is not enough to wrap this story. You know what I mean? Unless like they're
Yeah.
trying to, they might try to like, maybe there's like a cliffhanger episode and they come back or something. I don't know, but like, I don't think the scope of this tale is not going to be told in three more episodes.
Oh wow. I just watched a YouTube video about season two, and I mean the title was "Season Two is a Disaster," which I don't agree with, but it was really interesting to see like the plot completely laid out, and I'm like, oh yeah, that is a pretty intricate plot for season two. It's very complex. There's a lot going on.
Jackie and I are going to do an Everything Went Black episode on season two because it kind of is the unsung season. It's like the forgotten season, really. Everyone, and I mean, I guess technically season three could be considered a better season, but
Hmm.
I actually like season two better. You know what I mean? And it's
I
like,
do too.
yeah, it's the first two are my favorites. Season
Yeah,
three, good, a little boring, dragged a little bit.
yeah.
And in my opinion, the most recent one is kind of like a disaster. You know?
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I mean,
Not a
we'll
ringing
see. Maybe
endorsement.
it'll surprise me in three episodes. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. We'll see. Um, I haven't checked out much either, other than going to a live show. I've watched one movie of note, and that was the Last Exorcism. You remember that one?
Yes. That's the one with what's his name there? Russell Crowe? Oh no, that's the Pope's Exorcist.
That's a post Exorcist. This is from like I don't know, the like 2000. I don't know. I want to say like 11 or 12, something like that. Yeah,
Okay.
it's a found footage movie.
Oh, I haven't seen that one then. Okay.
Oh, really? Yeah, it's Scott Derrickson directing. I think it was a feature film. Was it his debut? I can't remember. Eli Roth produced. Oh, I hadn't seen it since it came out, and it was good. I recommend it. Found
Yeah, dude,
footage was all the rage when that came out. It's kind of not now, so it
yeah.
almost felt like a throwback to watch something like that.
I mentioned this before on the show, but I've been working on this book about well, I'm hoping to publish it as a book about like the new millennium horror, and
Yeah.
there's sections in there, and the found footage explosion in like the early part of the 21st century. There's a whole part I'm working on talking about that, you know.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because it is kind of like a 2005 through, whatever phenomenon. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's odd because Blair Witch was like 2000, right? Or 99? It was
Yeah, it
99.
was definitely in the 90s. And then you can say that, but also the reality is like Cannibal Holocaust is like technically you can say is the first found footage movie.
Right. But it was the cultural phenomenon that the Blair Witch was. And it's just strange to me that like that movie came out in like 99 or whenever it came out, and like the boom of movies trying to do what that was doing was like 5 years after. Like I thought after Blair Witch, like we were going to see found footage like every couple months, but it really took a few years for it to really kind of boom. I think
Yeah,
the next
definitely.
one was like Cloverfield that like really hit. I don't know, strange.
Probably like my favorite found footage is Wreck, the Spanish film.
Oh yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
The second one's good too.
First two are good, and then it loses the plot. Um,
Yeah, it gets really absurd.
yeah, and then the VHS, I think, to a point, the VHS series I thought was really good.
Yeah, I enjoy that. That we seem to be getting one of those a year. I really liked Cloverfield quite a bit. I thought that was one of the better ones. Hell House LLC really took me by surprise. That was like effective and scary. Um, and yeah, this one, The Last Exorcism, if I recommend it.
Yeah. So yeah, aside from that, I've just been working and trying to get ready for tour. This coming week is my last week at my job because I'm going back to my old company, and
Right.
I'm anticipating a very unpleasant week coming up. Just
Really?
yeah, there's like just like guilt trips and negative shit at my departure from the company. So, you know,
Yeah. I,
but
I
whatever.
find it best to just leave and block everyone whose number you might have.
To just stop showing up really is like that.
Yeah,
Imagine if
there
I
you
just
go.
didn't show up again. Like,
Yeah, or just show up drunk and like no shirt on. you know.
yeah. So yeah, this coming week can be unpleasant, I think, mostly. But hey, Friday's my last day, and I gotta go out on the road for a couple weeks, and I come back, and I got a very familiar, comfortable situation I'm returning to, which is good.
Yeah, that sounds ideal.
Yeah. But let's give the shout outs to everyone. So, of course, if you're listening to Necromaniacs, you're probably also a fan of our buddies, the Horsemen of the Podcasting Apocalypse. And if you're new to this show, I urge everyone to go out and check out these other shows. So, kicking off the week, we've got Horror Wolf 666, brought to you by Brandon Legion. And there's another horror podcast, but he does a lot of mostly interviews and then crossover episodes with one of us, like Jackie's been on there, Carl, me and you, Mike, everyone,
Yep.
Ralph. The next up is Into the Necrosphere by Jackie Smith, which is the only music related podcast I regularly listen to. Literally. And if you're into extreme music, it's the number one source for all that stuff. There's no bullshit. There's no stuff that might come out like on, like some bullshit that some PR person, is pushing. It's like real deal fan stuff for us fans. There's no
Right.
pretense to it being any kind of like work or someone paid to be on the cover and that bullshit that happens in press. You know what I mean? It's like real deal, straight from the source, fan stuff for us fans. Wednesday, Everything Went Black, which is my podcast I started, what it seems like, 40 years ago at this point.
Yeah, about that. Yeah.
Yeah, we started the podcast back in the 70s, I think, along with the first Black Sabbath record.
Yep.
So, if you're listening to this, you know all about Everything Went Black. I come back on Thursday with either Jeff or Mike Scandato for Necromaniacs horror podcast. Friday, Spitball Media, which is Mike's brother, John Draper, which is sort of in a lot of ways very irreverent and also kind of current events and also some
Mm.
movies gets discussed. Saturday, you know what comes at us on Saturday, Jeff?
What comes at us on Saturday?
Nothing.
Yep.
Saturday is a day off. Unplug, go out there and experience life. But then we're back on Sunday with Soul Knox podcast brought to you by Carl Hikara. And actually, Carl has episodes twice a week on Sunday and Thursday. And that's for all things dark, esoteric, the occult, explorations into that sort of stuff. And then, of course, it's the Darkness Weaves collaboration between me and Carl. We swap every month. An episode comes out on Soul Knox, episode on Everything Went Black. And we talk about the work of Carl Edward Wagner. And right now we are digging deep into the Kane stories. So if you like sword and sorcery, definitely check that out. And then on his own program, we have Iblis Manifestations brought to you by Cheyenne of the excellent band Tribax. And that's it, man. That's a full schedule every week.
Yes. A lot of stuff out there. Please check it all out. I really enjoyed Brandon Legion's Horror Wolf 666 episode where he did the horror Oscars. That was a fun one.
Yeah, because I loved it.
Yeah.
We've got a voicemail set up here, the Necro phone. If you want to leave us a voicemail and drop a line to us, you can do so at 908-913-0782, 908-913-0782. We do not have any calls this week, I think mostly because there's been not a lot of days between us recording these episodes. So people haven't had a chance to listen and catch up. But Usually we get like at least one or two, sometimes three voicemails every week, and we always look forward to talking to you guys. And it's always fun to hear from everyone. And there's been an outcry for us to do threads, so Jeff and I are going to be doing that probably in the month of March.
Yes, that's on the docket. We have some couple cool movies to talk about, and Threads is something I don't think I've ever seen. So and from what I'm hearing, it will fucking ruin your day. So yeah, looking forward to it.
As you know from last week, Mike is not available to see that movie. So,
Yes,
me and Jeff have been, we've been, that's our assignment.
we will tackle it for
Yeah.
you, the listener.
So that
And
brings us to
yeah,
this week's feature. We're going back to the 80s with The Hitcher, directed by Robert Harmon and written by Eric Reed. And that's all the way back to 1986, February 21st, 97 minutes long. And it's featuring some notable actors too, which we'll get to.
yeah, absolutely. I have not seen this movie in a very, very long time. How about you?
I hadn't watched it in several years, but I feel like I might have watched this like maybe a couple of years ago because I have it on DVD. And but now it's streaming on Max. So if you want to check this out and you're a Max subscriber, you can watch it on Max.
Although I gotta say, I also have a bare bones DVD, and I didn't want to watch it because I remember the last time I watched it on DVD, I was on a plane from LA to New York, and I watched it on a portable DVD player while taking Vicodin for my. I had some dental surgery, and
Dental
yeah,
surgery. Yep. Okay.
yeah, dental surgery, um,
Right. Okay.
what a great environment to see that movie on a plane
Plane like
in
high
the
on
dark,
drugs.
high on drugs. Yeah. But I remember the DVD looked like shit even back then. So I thought I'd just stream it. And, the streaming kind of looks like shit too. I don't know if you noticed that.
Definitely, the stream is definitely grainy, and maybe that's just how it is. It just looks like shit.
Yeah, well, and it's like, the old school aspect ratio of like your square TV, like they kind of crop the sides, which I thought was strange. It's almost like they probably scanned it from a shitty copy. Like it's not a good transfer, whatever. But it's still very watchable. It's just little like nitpicking since we're all used to high quality streaming or Blu-rays. This is feels like a bit of a throwback. Like you're watching it on your TV in like 19 fucking 87.
It did feel like I was watching a VHS of this as I was checking it out on Max for sure.
Exactly. Which I
Yeah.
mean, in a weird way, it works.
Yeah, this was definitely something I rented when I was a kid. I remember seeing this on the shelves in the old video store, and
Yes.
my mom is as you guys know, my mom is a huge horror fan, and we rented it, and checked it out at home, and that's how I saw this first. It really stuck with me over the years.
No, you should have taken some Vicodin and gotten on a plane, man.
Just run through some of the cast because there's some heavy hitters. We got Rutger Hauer as John Ryder, the great Rutger Hauer, unfortunately
Yes.
no longer with us.
Yeah,
We
very
got
unfortunate.
C. Thomas Howell as Jim Halsey, Jennifer Jason Leigh as Nash, and then like a bunch of other, people that you probably will see in other films like this, various cops, state troopers, you know,
Yeah, a
sort
few
of.
of them pop up in some more recent stuff too.
Yeah. Um, C. Thomas Howell, probably mostly known for the S.E. Hinton adaptations of like those like young adult like YA films that would have like the cast with like Emilio Estevez and all those people in it. Like the
Yeah, the
Outsiders and all
outsider.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, which I loved as a young man.
Probably my
Um,
favorite out of all those S.E. Hinton stories was Rumblefish.
was a good. Oh yeah, Francis Ford Coppola
Yep.
directed the film version. Yeah, that's great.
Mickey
Uh,
Rourke, Nick Cage.
yes,
Yeah.
Yeah, and then there was Tex. I don't quite remember the movie, but I read the book. There was That Was Then, This Is Now with Emilio Estevez.
Yeah,
C. Thomas Howell was sort of like a big deal in the early 80s. And I really feel like the film Soul Man kind of derailed his career.
really. I don't think I've ever seen.
Yeah,
I've never seen Soul Man, but I can think that about. Yeah, that was around the time when we lost track of him in movies.
well, yeah, he's in blackface most of the movie. And very even for like 1980 whatever that came out 87, it was very like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, who thought this was a good idea? And C. Thomas Howell kind of disappeared after that, kind of doing direct to DVD stuff here and there. Lately, well, not lately, last few years, he's sort of had a resurgence as like a character actor. He popped up as a racist cop in Southland, the TV show that was very underrated.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't even recognize him. But he didn't go on to the stardom that the most of the Brat Pack had, and I think that's because of Soul Man. I really do.
That would make sense to me. Hearing in
Yeah.
blackface would probably ruin most people's careers. Definitely.
Even in 1980 something, yes, absolutely. It was a baffling choice then, and I don't think it's a film you'll find streaming anywhere. I think people just want to forget that it exists.
Seen it
Uh,
though, right? Like you saw the movie.
I did. It used to be on HBO a lot when I was a kid.
Hmm. Okay.
And even then, I was like, this, I don't know what to think about this. It kind of feels kind of wrong.
Let me ask you a
Um,
question about Southlands. Does that have anything to do with the movie Southland? Because I really like that movie.
no, no, I don't think it does. This was a TV show about LA cops. Southland
You
was.
seen Southland, the movie?
I'm thinking of Southbound. What is Southland the movie?
Southland is like this really cool movie about this kind of like near future dystopian thing. And it's like it's got Sarah Michelle Gellar in it and like the dude that played Highlander and the guy who played Stifler playing a serious role.
Oh, Southland Tales. That's
Southland Tales, that's what it is. Yeah. You ever see
Yeah,
that?
yeah, yeah. No, I did see that. That was the director of Donnie Darko. I thought
Yeah,
that
yeah,
movie
yeah.
was an absolute disaster. Did you like it?
I love that movie. I really do.
Oh, I
Yeah.
need to see it again. I saw it when it came out and there's a lot of expectations it being the guy who did Donnie Darko, which everyone loved. I kind of think Donnie Darko's a little overrated. Uh, but Southland was just wow, like swinging for the fences, and didn't quite connect. Justin Timberlake's in it, I think, too.
Timberlake's great in that movie. Actually, Justin Timberlake is great as an actor. I love him as an actor.
Yeah, hopefully he doesn't star in the Soul Man remake if they ever remake that. you know.
Yeah,
And
I'm a fan of Justin Timberlake's acting, man, for sure.
oh yeah, he's a solid actor, no doubt about it. And of
He can
course,
also dance like a motherfucker too, man.
oh yeah, well, fucking, wasn't he like a Mouseketeer or something like that? I don't know, like a dancer on the Disney Channel. I think that's where he started.
Possibly.
Yeah, I don't follow his career as closely as I should. But yeah, this was like a pretty stacked cast for then. Rucker Hauer, coming out, he was in Blade Runner before this, and it's funny, this movie at the time starred two really like bigger names, and then later in their careers they both become sort of like direct to VHS kind of stuff.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, yeah, for sure. It was an early movie for Jennifer Jason Leigh too.
Yeah, yeah, one of it had to be one of her first.
Yeah. Oh, I just have to mention I got distracted here for a second. My girlfriend Tina just stepped out for a surprise party for her aunt, ladies
Oh,
only, and I have to say that she looks stunning. So, she's out there in the wild now on Sunday afternoon.
all right. And you were contractually obligated to say that, right?
Yeah, yeah, I was contractually obligated to shout her out like that. Yeah.
My girlfriend's downstairs talking to her mom right now,
Yeah.
in case anyone was wondering. So yeah,
So,
this came like it was a listener who brought this movie up, Mike.
yeah, I remember.
Yeah, and who I'm sorry, forget the person's name, but thank you. I had not seen this in a very long time and was very eager to see what the movie looks like to me now. And I gotta say, man, like this fucking movie holds up really, really well.
Definitely it does. And like I said, this is actually, I'm glad someone urged us to do this because someone nudged us in this direction because this is a movie that for several years I've wanted to discuss, and I'm glad that we're getting around to it. And it has been this kind of lurker like out there in the periphery of films that I really regard highly. You know what I mean? Because it's almost like a Jim Thompson like Killer on the Road sort of storyline
Hmm.
with like a vague, it's almost not a horror movie, but it is. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, no,
Like
absolutely. I know what you mean.
it populates that region of serial killer, crime, that kind of thing. But there's definitely like a horrific element to it because of just the extremity of how things happen in the film, and that sort of I feel like what makes a movie a horror movie are certain scenes that are just completely unrealistic that put it in the horror realm versus just a straight up like crime like movie.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I totally agree with that. It also really works, can work as a psychological horror film.
Yes, and we'll get to that, especially if this is the first time you go and see this film. And like I said, it's on Max, so everyone should go out and check this movie out. If you have Max, that is. One other thing I wanted to mention is the music. Mark
Yes,
Isham, incredible film score for this movie too. Uh,
yes,
yes, incredible, and it almost reminds me of moments like Tangerine Dream or something like that.
yeah. I had that written down actually. Like the score doesn't sound dated, but sounds nostalgic. Like it's really good even today. You're not like, oh yeah, it was the '80s, but man, that yeah, the score really helps project the movie, man. I mean, this is like such a well-directed film. I can't believe this director didn't go on to be, like a big name. I mean, this is really like is just seeped in atmosphere, and you just feel it all feels like like you've been there. You've been on the road at like 5 in the morning, and the sun's coming up, and you're drinking coffee and half falling asleep, and then it has this real like dreamlike quality to it. These dust storms, how desolate everything is. There's never any people around.
Yeah,
It feels
and
like a dream.
yeah, and even the fact that it's raining in a torrential downpour in like West Texas too is like you don't really get much rain in that part of the country. Yet he's driving through a rainstorm, and then he
Right.
sees this like shadowy figure in the rain, in the pouring rain, um, hitchhiking, and of course that's Rutger Hauer dressed like he's a member of Monsters and the Neubauten.
Yeah, he does kind of, doesn't he?
Yeah, he looks a Bargeld from like 1982 or something.
Yeah, like he'd be in the bad seeds or something. Yeah, or swans.
Yeah, swans. Yeah. Um, Fucking Rutger Hauer, man. What a cool motherfucker, man. Like I love Rutger Hauer. Always have, man. Blade Runner, like this film, just like such a presence.
Oh man, yeah, absolutely. And I feel like movies nowadays would slowly build tension, but as soon as he gets in the car in this movie, something's really wrong with this guy. Like it goes awry almost immediately. There's no like mystery. Like, is this guy bad or not? He's the bad guy as soon as he gets in, and C. Thomas Howell's character just knows instantly that he fucked up.
Yeah. I mean, let's be real. Like picking up a dude in a torrential rainstorm in the middle of the desert in this section of the road where no one should be is a bad thing. You know what I mean? And but Jim Halsey, his character, falling asleep exhausted, and he even gives his reason for picking him up is like, I just wanted someone to help me stay awake, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And that's like so like you don't really know the characters' motivations throughout most of this movie. You don't really know who they are. And that's like one of the only moments where he explains why he did something. Yeah, I just wanted you to keep me awake. Other than that, you know nothing about Jim Halsey. He's a blank slate.
Yeah, and as the I remember the first time watching this movie, part of me was thinking to myself, I'm like, this guy's running away from something, you know what I mean? Which they don't really get into his background, but the only thing you do know is that he's it's what I forgot the term they use, but a drive away where some guy has hired him to drive his car to San Diego, and so he's not even driving his own vehicle. It's like and he picked San Diego because he wanted to go to California. So there is like this energy around his character where he is this kind of like want to escape or something like that, want to get away from where he was. There's almost like this like like a Hemingway-esque vibe to his character where he's almost like a Nick Adams sort of dude where he's just out on the road living life and adventuring.
Right. Like maybe he had like a breakup or something like that. Something like major happened in his life and needs to get out of there. But we don't really know much about him. There's no backstory at all. And I think this is one of the rare occasions where that adds a lot to the movie.
Yeah. And John Ryder, we know even less about him. So there's just really these like shadows of two characters that are interacting on screen throughout the entire movie, really.
Right. We don't know who the Hitcher is. I mean, obviously, John Ryder is not his real name.
Yeah.
We never see him actually like doing anything. He just sort of appears. So there's almost this supernatural quality to his character. Like he just is, he's almost like the Joker.
Yeah.
Like he just wants to fucking create chaos and he just seems to always be a step ahead of everyone.
Good
And
call on that for sure. Yeah, he's like just this element of chaos, definitely.
yeah. And for a long time, if you're watching this for the first time, I had ideas about where I thought it was going. And I'm still not really sure I'm wrong. um, I have written down is the Hitcher even real?
Yes. That's where
And
I was
what
going
does
with
he
it too.
want? Real?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm not crazy.
No. Well, what happens right away in those opening scenes, as soon as he gets in the car, he's like basically, distracting him from this like another car that's like wrecked, and that's where people he had just murdered. He told him that, he killed someone. He's basically saying, I'm gonna do the same thing to you. That's straight up.
Yeah,
Like, no, no qualms. You're gonna die in this car, and I'm gonna be the one to kill you.
right. Yeah, and when C. Thomas Howell asks what he wants, he says, "I want you to stop me," and that's the only hint we get a little hint of what this guy is after. Everything else is such a mystery,
And
and
you get the
that
feeling that that's the same trip he lays on everyone, where it's like anyone picks him up on the highway, he's probably very straightforward about, I'm going to murder you and I want you to stop me. That might be just like his MO.
right. Exactly, and but that might also be explain why he's fixated on Jim, because Jim actually gets the upper hand at one point and throws him out of the car, and the Hitcher thinks, oh, this hasn't happened before. Maybe this is the guy to stop me, and becomes like a little bit of a cat and mouse game.
Once again, going back to the Joker analogy that you put out there, it's almost that's really why the Joker and Batman, like the Joker is obsessed with Batman, because he's like the one that's different than everyone else.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I was kind of shocked how many parallels he had between like the Batman Joker mythos. Probably, obviously, not intentional, but it is very similar.
Yeah. Now, this, like in the beginning, I remember the first time around I'm watching this, and then I was thinking to myself, like, man, I wonder if like the direction this film is going to take is that John Ryder is just like another aspect of Jim Halsey, and he doesn't really exist, and Jim is actually doing all the murders.
Yes, that was my thoughts exactly. And even watching it now after I've seen it, before, I'm still not sure that that's not true. Like I think there could be an argument for that all being all in his head. Like it's just one guy, and he's an unreliable narrator. So when you
Interesting.
say like, "Oh, what about the scene with him talking to the cops?" And I'm like, "Oh, or it could just be that that's the good side of him thinking that that's happening." I really think that you could watch the movie that way and not be that far off. You could
Yeah,
see it
that's
as they're the same person.
I tend to think that he actually was real at the end, but
Yeah.
it's debatable though, really. I mean, you make a good argument for that. But for the first, largely through the first couple of acts of the film, it's real literally just the two of them on the road together. And that's when I was like, this guy doesn't exist. Like this is like his like alter ego, like his dark side coming to the forefront, and he's actually killing all these people on the road.
Right, because I mean, when we first see Jim, like you see him like falling asleep, and then the Hitcher shows up. It's
Exactly.
like yeah. Now he's seeing like his other side in as a physical form, and he always, he kicks the Hitcher out of his car, and then yet there he is in the station wagon in front of him, and yeah, he walks in. This is one of my favorite scenes when he pulls over and he's in this like dust storm at like a garage or a gas station or whatever, and the Hitcher just sort of appears out of the dark.
Yes. Like very, very like, yeah, it just has this like vibe to it, you know. And it have you ever seen Dust Devil, that Richard Stanley film?
Oh yeah, it's fucking great.
Yeah, like visually there's like elements that are similar to this movie.
Yeah, I can see that. Um, yeah, at the diner, he just he's there. He can't get away from this guy, and there's got to be a reason. At one point, one of the officers says to him, "There's something going on between the two of you," and the film doesn't expand on that at all.
Yeah, and like that's the beauty of this movie too, is that it's a very it on the surface, it's a very simple plot. You know, there's a guy who's a serial killer killing people. Jim is the one who escapes, and then there's like a cat and mouse throughout the entire movie. And then eventually, you can say that he was apprehended and eventually dispatched. Or
Yeah,
you can go with the unreliable narrator version, like the Edgar Allan Poe approach to this thing, where this whole thing is just Jim hallucinating, or his dark side, like his alter ego, or having these two aspects to his personality. And that's an intriguing path to go with this film. And also either way, with either storyline, there's a lot of threads that are put out there that are just left for your imagination to expand on. Like the thing you just brought up about the cop saying like there's something going on between you two, and you're like, what there is, and then you
yeah,
fill in the blanks as to what some of these motivations are.
exactly. And yeah, there is something between the two of them, and I don't think it's something Jim. I don't think it's something either of them really understand. Um, But yeah, it totally works. You could take it for what it is, or you can look for deeper into it and try that this for like I watched this with my girlfriend. She's like, "You are reading way too into this movie."
I don't think so.
Uh, what's that?
I don't think so. I think both reads of this film are legit, honestly. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think yeah, either way it works. And there I saw a lot about the Hitcher being like supernatural, and that's kind of where I was like, yeah, it is super. It is in this guy's head. Like he's not real.
Yeah. So then
And
a lot of this movie just has this lonely, sort of dusty vibe to it. And then we meet Jennifer Jason Leigh's character Nash at a diner where Jim appears in his escape. Actually, at this point, that was after the police sort of
I thought
oh,
this is where the police got him.
yeah, the police got him there. Right, right, right. So he was
Yeah, he's
yeah.
he's eating a cheeseburger, and I put it in my notes like, hey, that's a good looking movie cheeseburger.
As soon as I saw that cheeseburger come out, I was like, damn, I can go for a cheeseburger.
Yeah, me too. And those like really big fries, and I was like, man, food was just better in the '80s. Like if you go to a shitty diner in the middle of nowhere now, you're gonna get some frozen, gross fucking cheeseburger. I feel like back then you could get like a real real dinner or whatever at a place like that. You know,
You ever go to the Iron Skillet?
it sounds familiar. Where is that?
It's like part of it's a chain, but it's connected to those Petro rest stops.
Oh, okay. I don't
I
think I
remember
have that.
we used to coordinate our stops around going to the Iron Skillet. And
Really?
yeah, you got some pretty good food out there.
Okay. What
I think the
what part of
nearest
the?
one to where I'm at is it's like somewhere in Pennsylvania, maybe is the nearest Iron Skillet, and but it's mostly a Midwest kind of thing.
Okay. Wow. Man, it seems odd. I wouldn't know that, but I don't. But yeah, every once in a while you get something good, like you on the East. If you're in Philly or Jersey or whatever, you see a Wawa's. You know, you fucking you hit pay dirt there.
Oh, I live in the Wawa Mecca, man. Definitely.
Greatest road stop next to Bucky's in the world.
Oh yeah, well, Bucky's is legendary. So you guys overseas, man. There's Wawa is the ultimate convenience store or truck stop setup. It's in suburban areas and also out there on the road. They're in Maryland, they're in Florida, Jersey, parts of Pennsylvania, and there's the Mega Wawa has like the gas stations, you can fill
Hmm.
up, and then
Yeah,
you go in there and they have this setup where you can order fresh food basically. Well, it's not fresh, but like made to order sandwiches and meals. Now pizza with a there's like a pad, like an iPad kind of tablet set up, and you pick what you want. You can get mac and cheese, you can get whatever, you can get like a sandwich, you can get, variety of things. And then they make it there, or
yeah,
basically, heat it up and put it on a piece of bread or something like that. And then it's pretty sick. I love it. You can also get mango slices. They have for like convenience store coffee. It's pretty good. I think it's like one
yeah.
of the better convenience store coffees out there.
Yeah. Although overseas they got Auto Grill. Like they got some really good shit over there in Europe.
Take it to a whole other level, man. Like as far as you can get espresso, you can get actually in Italy. We went to an auto grill. We were on tour with The Secret, and I remember we were in Germany and we were heading south for like the last couple of shows in Italy. And I'm like, man, I'm hungry. You guys want to pull over? They're like, no, no, we hold on, hold on. And I'm like, okay, we eat it soon, and it's like we get over the border and we pull into the first auto grill and dude, it was like
Dude.
fresh, like ham, uh, bottles of wine. There was like pasta, but it was like they would have the pasta al dente and then they would drop it in boiling water to finish it off. And like
Yep.
fresh bread, cheeses, like slicing, everything. Like I ate like a king at that truck stop.
Yeah, and it was like that. I was like, I would come here for fucking dinner. This
Oh
is
yeah,
just
bro.
like
I would take
a
my
gas
girl out
stop.
for dinner there at Auto Grill in Italy for sure, any day of the week, bro.
Oh man, if you're in Italy and you're listening to this, send us some Auto Grill right away.
Hell yeah.
Um, but that is to say, we were talking about Jennifer Jason Leigh's character, and again, talk about the movie that just doesn't really show much motivation. She is drawn to Jim in a very, again, almost like supernatural way. Like she's just all about this guy, and risks going to jail, risks everything for this guy that she just met, which again adds to the dream quality of this movie. Like if you explain the plot, it's almost like to someone, it's almost like explaining a dream to someone. Like I can see being like, oh god, I had this strange dream. I was alone on the road. I was falling asleep. Met this hitchhiker. He tried to kill me. He kept showing up. A girl showed up. We were in love, even though we just met. It has like this dream like logic to it.
Totally. It's almost like if Garth Ennis wrote the movie, you know what I mean?
Mm.
it has like that Garth Ennis kind of vibe to it, maybe without some of the humor that he has. But I'm thinking mainly of like Preacher and like some of his work when he did back in the '90s. You know?
Right. Yeah. This is not a dark comedy by any means. I don't think there's one funny line in
No,
the Hitcher.
yeah, it's played pretty deadpan throughout, and yeah, there's even a scene where Jim's thinking about killing himself too, which is pretty heavy.
Yes. Yeah. Because Jim gets picked up. He is thought of as the killer. The cops think he's the one who's been going around killing all these people. And there's that one really great scene where the cop kind of tries to goad him into coming for his gun so he
Yeah.
can fucking kill him. You know,
Oh yeah, that was tense, and
it
that's
was.
when Nash like steps in and puts her like steps up and was like, look, he's not the man that you're looking for, and they're
Yeah.
like, you're Nash, you're ruining you're throwing your whole life away, Nash, and she's like, you got the wrong guy here, and yeah, very
But
very very much like she bought in the whole thing. She was just in.
yeah, and she doesn't even really know that he's not the guy. She just has like a feeling.
I mean, the
And
reality too, man. This dude rolls up by himself, like in the middle of nowhere. He's not from around there. It wouldn't be too much of a stretch to think that he actually is a murderer.
right, exactly. And depending on how you look at the movie, he may be. Um, but yeah, the whole stuff with the cops leads to some other things to mention. This movie has incredible practical stunts and effects. Um, Something you don't, this is low budget, but man, there's like a car chase scene that looks fucking legit, man. Like real stunts, real cars flipping around.
Yeah,
Uh,
there's good car chase scenes in this too. Yeah.
yeah, it even works somewhat as an action movie. It's crazy. There's a helicopter stunt in it. It's all really, really well done, and I thought I'd look back at this as like, oh, it's a little cheesy, it's a little goofy, but no, man, it really fucking holds up really well.
Yeah, well, no doubt, man. Yeah, the action sequences were well directed, and there aren't a whole lot of effects in here, but when you do see visual effects are good.
Right. There's not a lot of gore in this, although allegedly the original script was ultra violent and bloody. But there's not a lot of that in here. It's mostly leaves it up to your imagination.
Never actually see Ryder killing anyone, which is some of my favorite things. Actually, going all the way back to Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer, which is another one of my all-time favorite movies. You don't really see Henry kill anyone. Like there's a couple of like the major murders in that film do not they all happen. You see the aftermath of that.
Right.
Like there's
Yeah.
maybe
Like,
one scene where they snap those prostitutes' necks where Otis does the killing. But you don't
right.
really see any of the actual murders. And that's kind of like, with in this movie, no, you don't really see anyone getting killed, until the end, obviously. And a couple of cops get killed and things like that. But none of the actual serial killings are done on screen.
Right. Exactly. And I think that really works to the movie's favor. And at one point, Jim is supposed to be an innocent guy, but for an innocent guy, he'd be in a shitload of trouble for some of the shit he pulls during the movie.
But yeah, like definitely kidnapping cops, stealing a cop car, like, menacing people with guns. He definitely goes out on a limb, and
Yeah, and at
also
one point,
his
yeah, the cop's like, oh, "Yeah, I'm sorry for the trouble we put you through. We didn't know." But I'm like, dude, this guy would be in jail for years for what he did, even if he's not the killer.
yeah, so one really creepy scene too, uh was when Jim and Nash are in a hotel room together. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Nash falls asleep, Jim's in the shower, and then of course Ryder somehow slips into the room and lays down next to her in bed and is just creepy.
very
you know?
creepy. Yeah, Yeah,
Yeah,
she's
like
sleeping.
she's sleeping and he's like touching her and stuff, and she thinks it's Jim, and it was just like really cringy, man, because it's like, like Rutger Hauer's probably like what, like 30 or something like that around that this film.
Yeah, yeah, something like that. Yeah.
And she's obviously like a very young girl.
Yeah. And again, like you could look at that scene as like taking place in Jim's head. Like, again, he just appears. Um, I also had it written down like how could they even stay in a hotel? Those two would be all over the news. Like it wouldn't be hard to find them.
So
But
this movie can only take place in that time frame because nowadays with digital media and like, Facebook and Instagram and TikTok and everything, there'd be you number one, yeah, exactly. Immediately everyone would know what's going on.
yeah, um, exactly. And that leads to, I think, what is sort of the big centerpiece of or the big moment in the movie that I feel like when people think of the Hitcher, they think of this moment, and that is Nash tied between two trucks.
Yeah. That's what
And
makes it a horror film, is that scene.
yeah, and a lot of people had problems with this scene. I remember every year for Christmas when I was a kid, I used to get my mom would get me Roger Ebert's book of reviews for the previous year, and I read that thing cover to cover multiple times. And I remember his review of The Hitcher, and he gave it no stars, like no stars. And I remember that review for that movie. I read that review like well before I saw the movie. And I think this is the scene he has a big problem with, calling the movie, cruel and dishonest and all this stuff. I mean, obviously, I don't agree with him, but and it was this scene that really upset people, and you don't even really see what happens. You don't really see it at all.
No, you don't. It's like inferred that she gets like bisected, basically.
Yeah, but it is shockingly cruel.
It is. And I mean, in this day and age, it's pretty minor compared to some of the things they've had on screen. Like what immediately comes to mind is like Hereditary with the
Yeah,
young girl's head being smashed off by a telephone post,
right, right,
and a variety of other things like that. But it really is. I mean, Nash is like legit, like a complete collateral element of this movie. Like she's got nothing to do with anything. And she was just
right.
situationally like a victim, and it's sad, and you don't want her to die because she seems like a real like an innocent, and one of the few people who actually believes that Jim is innocent.
Yeah, and she dies horribly too. I mean, God, I can't think of a worse way to go. And it's just, I mean, it's just so it's disturbing. And again, you don't really see it, but like what you think of is probably worse than what you would actually see. And I think it's really the smart decision to not show this. Like this isn't a sleazy '80s exploitation movie at all. It's really
Now that-
not.
No, in my opinion, it's like this like atmospheric sort of brooding like horror film.
Yeah, and I mean, here's some things I found out. I mean, I knew there's a remake for this movie. I don't know if you ever saw
Oh
that.
no, no, wasn't even aware of it.
And and this is what I did not know until last night. There's a direct sequel to this with C. Thomas Howell.
I learned something else today. Then I had no idea that even existed.
Neither until about 12 hours ago, I didn't either.
Wow.
um, apparently not good. It does not have Rutger Hauer, I believe. It has Jake Busey in the role of the killer. But I just don't want to see it. I'd rather come up with like my own ideas about what happened, about what's going on in this movie. But
Well, they really couldn't have Rutger Hauer because I mean, all right, spoiler alert, he gets shot in the chest into this movie, and
yeah, he finally gets arrested and taken to jail, and Jim's like, you'll never hold him. He'll get away, and he takes it upon himself to go and stop the Hitcher. And again, you could kind of see this as some guy wrestling with part of his brain that he can't deal with.
So with that mindset of the film that it's actually him doing all the murders, what's the explanation for him being free at the end of the movie?
Um,
They just
you know,
don't
I
have
don't.
enough evidence.
Well, I mean, I think no, he's like okay. So the scenes of Jim, like being with the cops and looking at him through the looking at the Hitcher through the double glass or whatever. I think that maybe that could all take place in his head. Like good guy Jim is now just a figment of his imagination, and all the scenes with the cops and all that. That's inside his head. He's an unreliable narrator, and he's not. He was never really free, but he does manage to escape and break out. And I guess the good side of him gets out and kills the bad side. I don't know. I don't have it completely like worked out, and I think I am maybe reading into it a little bit too much. But I think the film is more interesting about that when you think of it that way. Like these guys are complete each other.
I like it. I don't particularly, I don't 100% agree with that, but like I think it's a cool idea though. I think it's interesting. I think that it's an interesting take on the movie for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, I thought it the first time I saw it, and I thought it again watching it. Like this could work like as that kind of film. I think, and it makes it a little bit more interesting because really, yeah, like there's the sort of romance between Nash and Jim, but the real relationship of the movie is the writer or our writer and Jim. I mean, someone even pointed out that the movie is like extremely homoerotic.
Well, yeah. Well, there's like a scene in the very beginning when Ryder puts his hand on his fucking cock, and it's like
Yeah,
when they're like stopped at that where the construction site is, and the guy's like, he infers that they're in some sort of like roadhead situation or something like that.
yeah. And there's a scene towards the end too where Jim has the shotgun and he's sort of like runs it down the Hitcher's face through his
Yeah.
hair. It's almost like what you do to like you're lying next to someone you just woke up and you start stroking their hair. Like it had a little bit of that vibe to it.
Definitely some homoeroticism. I pick up on that, pretty much. It's just the fact of like a guy being picked up on the side of the road is kind of homoerotic too, really, if you think about it.
Sure. Yeah. Um, so yeah, I think if you're gonna watch this, kind of try to keep it both in mind that maybe this is just a straightforward film, or this is all taking place in some guy's head. I want to point out that the writer of the movie was living in Texas at the time of writing this script and was inspired by the Doors song "Riders on the Storm." That's what kicked this whole thing off. Is him driving through Texas listening to the Doors.
That's pretty
I thought that
cool.
was an interesting. Yeah, I love the Doors. I don't care how cheesy it is. I love that band.
Biggest cheesy at all. I think the Doors are like the first dark band, really.
Yeah,
It's like without the Doors, there wouldn't be like if you think about the 60s, you think about the Beatles and you think about the Rolling Stones and all these bands and then there's like Jim Morrison, like all dressed in black and like he's all writing dark poetry and
yeah,
into like, Dionysus and all this stuff, you know what I mean? And
right.
you know, it's the precursor to just like darkness, like in music, really.
Yeah, and I mean, this movie really just speaks to like 13-year-old me because I love that kind of shit. This is a movie I'd watch with like I think the first time I saw it I was about 12 or so, and watching this at a sleepover at like 2 in the morning, and the movie just has that vibe of like 2 in the morning. I love the atmosphere at the beginning of the movie. The sun's coming up. Um, like the dust storms, just everything about this is so atmospheric. I mean, this movie, would you is it considered a classic? Because I feel like outside of horror circles, people don't really know this movie exists.
think even within horror circles, people don't think about this film that often. I think that to me, it's a classic. I love this movie, but I don't think it gets the juice that it should really, you know.
Yeah, I don't think so either. And I don't think the remake really did much to help its case of this being a great movie. The remake was very, very, very forgettable. Nash becomes Jim's girlfriend. They're like a couple before the movie starts. You got Sean Bean in the Rucker Hauer role. Sean Bean's great, but like I think it just all the interesting things we talked about in this movie, the psychological element, it's all gone from the remake.
It's Jim and Nash.
Oh God, I don't remember. I don't think it was anyone that I don't know, just someone you probably see pop up on like a CW show or something like that. I don't remember them, but yeah, I just think the remake, much like the Black Christmas remake, they
Oh
just kind
man,
of, or one of them. I didn't see the other one. They just kind of took out the stuff that really works and just kind of looked at it like a more straightforward kind of flick. And I think that's what works to this film's advantage is maybe it's not as straightforward as we think it is.
yeah, and also just like sometimes a movie that doesn't have any real romantic connection is good. Like even though there's tension, there's like definitely sexual tension between Nash and Jim, but it's not ever realized. You know,
Yes.
they don't have sex, they don't really fall in love with each other. There's like this just tense attraction that they have. And sometimes you don't need to have like a full-on romantic connection. Then she gets killed at the end. So it's like they never really, it's not like they ride off together and live happily ever after or any of that kind of stuff.
Right. Yes, exactly. I read somewhere that it was written that they do have sex in the hotel, but Jennifer Jason Leigh thought it rang false.
Good on her,
And
sure.
yeah, I think that's the way to go with this movie. Like it's more interesting that way. That yeah, the idea is probably there. They're probably attracted to each other, but they don't consummate the relationship. I think the movie is just it works and it makes you don't lose anything in her death with them. Uh, you don't lose anything with them not sleeping together. Her death still hits really, really hard.
Or poignant in some ways too, because it's like it goes back to that era in your life, maybe where you're young and maybe sex wasn't actually on the table, but you really like this other person and you're like, oh, I want to really be with you, you know, and it's like, and then that gets pulled away from you, you know.
Yeah, like exactly like how it speaks to like my 13-year-old brain when you don't realize how relationships work. Like you meet a girl, you're in this situation together, and now you're like, yeah, I'm in love. We're not, you know, um, it's man, fucking, I loved this movie.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, man. So now the moment of
Uh,
truth is what would you give this as a rating?
you know, um, I'm gonna go with 5.
Me too,
I
actually. I gave this a 5 out of 5 because I can't find a single thing wrong with it, and I love this movie, and it's rewatchable.
It is, and like again, for watching it for this podcast, I hadn't seen it in a very long time. I was expecting it to be a little cheesier than I remembered. And I think I liked it more this time than the other times I watched it, man. This is like when people think about 80s horror and atmospherics, like this is the movie. This is the movie. It is incredible, like so well directed. The acting is really good. There's some
Yep.
a few goofy moments here and there. I think the cops are a little bit broad, I guess would be my only complaint that like they're just out to like kill this guy that they don't know is the killer. um but again it adds to sort of the dreamlike logic of the movie where it doesn't quite make sense, like a dream wouldn't quite make sense.
Interesting take on it for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I love it. It's a classic. This really needs to be, apparently there is no like really good physical release for this movie. Apparently, it's like all the ones that exist aren't, or old, or the print's not very good or the transfer's not very good. So I feel like this movie is begging for like, you know, an Arrow release, or, you know, Criterion Collection would be probably a bit too much of an
I don't
ask,
think that
but
would. Yeah, Criterion probably doesn't even know this movie exists.
right, yeah. But Disney, like some company really should put out like a really great Blu-ray for this with a ton of extras, you know, people talking, you know, people who acted in the movie about their thoughts of it. I think this is just begging for a special edition, or maybe I don't know what I'm talking about. Maybe one exists, but I didn't seem to come across anything like that.
I'm eager to see what you guys think about the movie out there. How many of you guys have actually seen it before? And if you check it out while it's on Max, what your thoughts are on it for sure. Because this movie is definitely not one that comes up in conversation a whole lot.
Right. Yeah, this is, yeah, definitely see it while you can, while it's streaming. Or, you know, go out and, you know, maybe there's a secondhand store you live by that sells used DVDs, and maybe the Hitcher's there. You know, it's well worth whatever $5-6 you pay for it, used.
Oh yeah,
Um,
man, definitely. You'll find this it's not even on Blu-ray. There's only DVD versions of this out there.
yeah, exactly. But you know, any way you can see it, even if it isn't the best quality release. Like, and like I said, the Max, the version streaming on Max is a little busted. You know, it's not the best quality, but it's still very watchable.
Well, all right. And on that note, thanks for listening, and we'll see you guys next week. Take care.
Bye now.
1,000 miles below.